Chuck, great to have you on the program.
Good to be here, Grant. Good to see you.
So what did you think of the speech? This was a president who was very strong, saying we would not tolerate terrorism across this globe.
Yeah, he definitely called out those terrorist supporting countries, North Korea, Iran sitting right there in the hall watching him. He talked about Venezuela and talked about Russia, other countries. But, you know, the thing that really was impressed upon me from this speech was that he was saying, listen, we can no longer be taken advantage of as the United States of America, as a member of the United Nations. So in that way, he was calling out almost every member of the United Nations because, as you probably know, Grant, the United States pays $8 billion a year to the United Nations. That's more than 185 nations put together. That of the 193 nations in the United Nations, we pay more than 185 of them put together, $8 billion a year. There are some countries that pay less than $8,000 a year, and that's before they start getting kickbacks. You see, what I heard Donald Trump saying here is that, listen, we've only got one vote out of 193 countries, but yet we pay more than 22% of the entire budget and 28% of the peacekeeping budget of the United Nations. And that has got to change. That we've got to start seeing the rest of these nations stepping up and voting for freedom, for prosperity, for private property, the rule of law, for things that bring prosperity to the world, and stop using the United Nations as a corrupt organization that is essentially there to transfer wealth from our country to a lot of other countries around the world.
Yeah. Clearly, this was an America First speech by this president. He covered a lot of ground. He even talked about Venezuela, a place that you have reported on. And he said, look, it's not socialism the way it was politically implemented. It's socialism being implemented that was the problem here.
That's right.
And so it was interesting because that is exactly something we have talked about.
That's right. It's not socialism poorly done. It's a feature of socialism that it destroys countries, that it destroys lives. I mean, how many hundreds of millions of lives do we have to lose under socialism around the world throughout history before we start to learn that? And he was speaking to a lot of countries, European countries especially, that have pushed very hard for socialism in their country under the mistaken belief that, oh, it just wasn't done correctly. No, look. Death and destruction are a feature of socialism, not a bug, okay? And I loved how he kind of talked about all responsible leaders have the responsibility first to the people that they serve. That he was speaking specifically about himself there, but he was also calling out the leaders of those nations that would have Donald Trump serve other nations who are used to a Barack Obama who was out to foist things on other nations that they didn't want around the country. One of the things specifically was the gay rights agenda that the Obama administration pushed around the world. In a country like Panama, for example, that is very against something like that. In many of the countries of Africa that are very against something like that, the Obama administration was tying the funding and the help that the United States would give to them advancing those agendas around the world. And he was saying, listen, the Trump administration is not here to push our way of life on people. The only thing that we are standing for with the United Nations is the freedom of free people to vote for themselves, to think for themselves, to live the way they want to live, as long as it doesn't impose on other countries. Yeah. And I just thought that was a really good message.